Funny. Emre always talked about retiring here.
Hey guys, this is Shroomy, Mushroom, Shroomathan, Shroomster. I have a lot of different names and I just really like lore. And it's time. It's Emre time. With the new Overwatch comic Search and Destroy, we got a lot, and I mean a lot, of new lore reveals, the continuation of Freya's storyline, and of course, Emre, finally. So we're going to be breaking down everything here, but as usual, if you like this stuff, don't forget to like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. And as a side note as well, I was not expecting this today. Last week they released the Anran and Wuyong thing with Winston, that short story. So I thought they were just gonna kind of maybe just have that and then lead into something in the future for the storyline. Did not expect this. did not expect this in a very good way. So let's get started with just kind of breaking down what exactly happens in the comic itself. The story picks up where Freya's cinematic, The Hunt Begins, ended. Freya begins her search for Emre. Unsure why Max wants her old friend, she reminisces on the past as she retraces where he's been. She starts by meeting with Moira O'Derian, where Moira reveals Emre had gone to Talon a few years after he left Overwatch. Shocked, she also learns he's changed and become more ruthless. Unsure whether or not she believes Moira, she arrives at Emre's home in Istanbul, Turkey. Here, she reveals her deep and personal connection with Emre, and how she's even met his parents. His parents tell her they haven't seen their son in some time, so she meets with Mauga, Widowmaker, and even Reaper, and all of them paint the idea of a reckless, loose cannon who is not the same man she once knew. After tracking all the locations he'd attacked and gathering enough intel, Freya discovered where he may be next. A now Helix-run base in Kinshasa. A now Helix base in Kinshasa, and Freya set off to find him. Upon arriving, the base is a mess, and the one-man army that is Emre easily enters. Upon seeing her old friend, he was changed, augmented, and had eye symbols all over his body. The two briefly fought, and as the cybernetic man let out a blast of energy, he briefly returned to his senses, and the two were able to reunite, with Freya seeing her old friend once more. So there's a lot to break down in this story, and obviously that didn't do it justice. I highly recommend reading Search and Destroy. It's probably the best lore thing we've gotten in a long time, at least since Reconciliation. Maybe those two are the best things we've gotten in like the last year. But there's so much to break down here. And honestly, maybe enough for multiple videos. I might even play with that idea in the future, but for now, I'm going to try to explain all of my thoughts from the first day of seeing this comic. So, first off, Emre. Yeah, I was not expecting Emre to look like this or even be this character. When I thought we were going to be getting Emre, I thought he was going to kind of be a rebel in Havana. There was a lot of signs that something was going on in Havana, from Sojourn and Freya both saying Emre would retire there, to the map update giving a lot more of a Talon focus. I think a lot of people, including myself, thought Emre was going to be like a rebel leader in Havana, fighting against Talon, since he stood up for Omnic rights and also was really close with Sojourn. It just made a lot of sense, but this direction is far more interesting in my opinion. So I'll just cut to the conspiracy of it all. I think Emre is looking like he's involved in the conspiracy. Yeah. If you don't know who the conspiracy is, I have another video you can watch, but they're basically an organization that seems to run the world from the shadows, and they use this eye symbol to pretty much show others or as a calling card in some ways. Emre obviously has this eye symbol all over his body. You can see it on his chest, on his arms, so it makes sense that Emre is being controlled here. I have a lot of ideas as to why Emre's being controlled, but I'll save that for a conspiracy segment in a bit. Emre is a character I don't think I really realized how deep his connection with Freya was. This comic really starts to point out and set up how the two were really close. Probably the closest that we've gotten out of two heroes aside from like Anran and Wuyong in a recent time. I mean, Freya even met Emre's parents, so that has to say something there. Aside from that though, I think it's really interesting that this story highlights how Emre was pretty much the only Overwatch agent, from the higher up people at least, who really connected with the support teams like with Freya's. And when Emre left, nothing was really ever the same. He seems to have really been the only one who kind of cared for these smaller groups. No offense to the higher people up like Jack or Reaper, but they probably had other things going on. So it really makes an interesting case for, well, Emre himself. Emre seems to be the kind of character who really was this great person and a really nice guy. So seeing him in this light and doing all this is a really interesting direction for him to take, and I'm wondering what the conspiracy exactly did, if they did anything. Emre as a character is not what I expected at all, but he's still really interesting, and I can't wait to see where they take him next. I'm honestly impressed with how well they've tied Freja to him as well. The two kind of came out of nowhere in terms of lore, but they seem really close to each other and have also built up this kind of dynamic we haven't yet seen fully, but I'm sure we're going to be seeing in the future. These two are going to be an ongoing plotline, and I can't wait for when Emre eventually comes into the game. I mean, look at his design. He's definitely going to be a hero in the future. And with Emre as well, I do want to talk about he was working for Talon. Yeah, Talon itself seems to have not really cared about him. We see with Mauga and Reaper and Widowmaker, they all kind of call Mauga, Reaper, and Widowmaker, they all kind of call him a loose cannon, and they didn't like working with him, they didn't like him, and even Reaper says this wasn't the same guy that he once knew. So it seems pretty apparent that even in Talon, Emre wasn't really well liked for different reasons, but it's just an interesting thing to have him work with Talon, being the nicest and probably best person from the original Overwatch, who kind of moved on from that organization to Talon, and seemingly something happened where he was a different man. I do think in this period, they do say in the comic it's been a couple years, I could see the conspiracies kind of swooping him up and turning him into this super soldier of sorts who can't really remember things all the time. But honestly, I just want to see more of Emre's character before I fully agree with that sentiment. As we're on the topic of the conspiracy, I think this is a good segue moment to just start talking about them, because there's a lot to talk about with them in general now. So, the conspiracy is obviously in the forefront again, though not directly stated. Once again, you can see it all over Emre's design. He has eyes. It makes a lot of sense for the conspiracy to have a hand here. Emre kind of vanished for years, and we've all been kind of wondering what happened to him. Seems the world has been kind of wondering as well. He's kind of vanished twice. The first time was after he left Overwatch. The story states he vanished for a couple years until arriving at Talon's door. And the second time was after working with Talon for a bit, he just vanished one day. So it seems like the conspiracy is using him to kind of be their hand in the world, in a sense. He's attacking a lot of global security places like for Helix, so it would make sense if he's kind of hacking into the mainframe, stealing information, kind of causing a bit of chaos in that sense. If the conspiracy's goal is just to have as much anarchy as possible going on and making the world kind of be in this state of perpetual chaos, then I think this is a really good way for them to do it. Emre being this soldier who leaves none left standing and doing his job without even saying a word would make sense for the conspiracy. But once again, there's not a lot to go on why they're doing this to Emre. I've had some good thoughts with friends that maybe Emre wasn't their first choice, maybe they wanted to get Reaper, maybe they wanted to get Soldier, maybe they wanted to get Ana, but Emre kind of just fell into the wayside and was the perfect person for this job. I think everything with the conspiracy is really leading into this big moment, and we're probably going to be hearing more about them in the future, using Emre as the first character to kind of go down that storyline, which I am really excited for. The conspiracy has been something I've talked about a bunch on this channel, and it's something that I really wish they would focus on more. So, with Emre, hopefully we get to see that in the future. I'm really excited to see where the conspiracy goes, and I have some ideas about where they could go with this as well. Another idea I kind of had is they could really tie a lot of characters into the conspiracy in general, like a lot of random one-off characters that we haven't heard from in a while, from Sven to even Hivemind from the Overwatch Declassified book. I thought that would be a really fun one, or even Case. They could use Emre as their starting point and kind of evolve it from there. It's a really interesting idea, and I just hope they expand on the conspiracy in general. As for Freja, I think this is a really good moment for her as well. Freya's always been a little bit one note, especially since we got her originally, so I kind of wanted more from her, and it really seems like Emre is going to be her other half. We're going to see a lot more of her softer side when she works with Emre and talks to Emre, so that's going to be really good to see. I think Freya's kind of missed this character development and moment for a while, and into doing a more deep dive into her character with Emre. Emre and Freja to me are like two sides of the same coin, where they're really important to each other's stories, so I'm interested to see where they take things from here in that regard as well. Freja, though on her own, has also proven once again how competent she is. She was able to find Emre, which even Maximilian couldn't do, so he made the right call hiring her for this job. And on a different note real quick, I do want to talk about Max as well. Max's character seems to be really moving in this direction of I'm not sure where he's gonna go. And what I mean by that is, he has a lot more potential than he used to have, in my opinion. I'm really curious as to why he wants Emre in particular, as Emre is kinda not too strong for him, but is tied to the conspiracy. So it's a really weird thing for Max to just suddenly want to get him again. I think it goes a lot deeper than just wanting to get his target back, so I'm really curious what they do with Max. And onto a little softer note, I want to talk about Moira real quick and the conspiracy. So Moira, they have a moment here in the story where Freya kind of talks to Moira about where Emre went. And Moira confirms that she did work with him for a little while when he joined Talon originally. What's interesting here is this story is so conspiracy heavy that Moira gets a bit of a spotlight here. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is kind of a hint hint nudge nudge kind of moment where they're trying to say there is a connection between the two. As well, we get to see the tower again. The tower has led to so much speculation in the past, so it's really interesting to see it at play again and giving a focus here. I'm wondering what Moira's relationship is to all this, and I've even talked about Moira in my conspiracy video, and how she's probably a part of the conspiracy or being puppeted by it. You can even see the 3 dots above an eye on the conspiracy's logo, which that's what's on Moira's mask. So there is a dynamic and thing there that we're probably hopefully going to be seeing a bit more of in the future. I'm glad they gave Moira a moment in this story too, because we haven't had a lot with her in a long time. It's just really refreshing to see this character again and be able to talk with Freya, who I didn't expect Moira to be talking to in a million years, at least for a while. So it was nice to see Moira again. As for the timeline of events, just to summarize things for Emre's story, when Emre left Overwatch, it was starting to begin the fall, where Overwatch was starting to fail as an organization. Emre, upon hearing this and falling on deaf ears time and time again about trying to protect civilians, decided to leave. Without Emre, the support teams really had no connection to the main strike team or to the main organization, so they started to fall apart. Then, of course, the base attack happens, and when the base attack happens, most of Overwatch kind of disbanded. We know that Emre kind of went MIA for a while, just vanishing off the face of the earth. I think this would be a good time where the conspiracy probably swooped him up. After a couple years, he seemingly showed up at Talon, worked with them for a bit, and vanished again. But as he came back out of the woodwork, he seemingly was a changed man. And importantly, Reaper's words on him being very different say a lot, since Reaper actually probably knew him the best of anyone in Talon, maybe aside from Moira. And some other speculation I want to throw in at the end here is there's a lot of going on with the conspiracy now and a lot of debates and conversations going on about what exactly happened and what Emre has done. I think there is a really good chance that Emre could have been the one to destroy the Overwatch HQ. We know there was a massive explosion and we're not really sure how it happened. It would make a lot of sense if the conspiracy sent in Emre, but at the same time, I'm not exactly 100% on the timeline of those events. I think Emre just kind of walking in because he would know the place and planting the bomb or whatever they used makes a lot of sense. But once again, I probably have to do a little bit more research on that for the timeline's sake. But it's something I wanted to bring up because it's something I've seen talked about. Aside from that, Emre and his connection to the conspiracy is a really big moment in the narrative. The conspiracy itself has not been utilized very much, so I'm interested to see where they go from here. As a kind of closing of my thoughts, this story was really good. It was probably my favorite story that we've gotten since Reconciliation, or probably even more. I think this story does a lot to move the universe forward, but also set up exciting things for the future. I can't wait to see what they do with Emre in particular, but I'm also interested to see what they do with Freya and the conspiracy. Not to mention, we got to see so many new places in this comic, and so many new things. As well, Helix, once again, just showing they are not really worth anything as they lost another fight. Shout out to Helix, I guess. But, in conclusion, this is just a really good story, and I'm really excited to see where they take things. It really feels like the story's starting to shape up in some ways, and we're starting to get plotlines again that are moving in certain directions. I wouldn't be surprised if this plotline eventually intertwines with Soldier and his whole plotline with fighting the conspiracy. I could see him and Freya teaming up, maybe even getting Emre and trying to help him out of his state that he's in, and trying to take down the ones who really rule the world. But that's all for me pretty much. I do think this was a solid start to Emre's story, and I think this is going to be built up to a hero, which is interesting because Anran's story that came out last week I felt like really built her up. So I'm curious to see what happens next as we have 3 more pieces that are going to be coming out in the next couple weeks, I guess, here before the next season. So there is a lot to look forward to. And anyways, that's all from me. What do you guys think of this? Are you excited? Do you have any ideas? I want to hear everything. I want to see everything. It's a really exciting time, and it's a really good lore piece to really speculate and talk about. So that's all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a bit of a quick one. Tried my best to get it out as soon as I could. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.
Yo, Joe!